push to stop for me is not just simply an operating system, it's a whole business philosophy. And what I'd like to show you is some statistics of what can be achieved around push to stop, but then also show you the framework where all of the processes need to be optimized to make the most of the investments and the machinery you see below. So we call it driving the smart print shop. And for definition, smart is simplified manufacturing, allowing reduced touch points. So what is capable with push to stop? What we have on screen is a product called Analyze Point, and this is showing the data that comes out of the printing presses. On the top, we have the running speed, which is 18,000, and below we have the quantity, which is 150. So in 1 hour, 24 four-color make-readies and runs of 150 using the push-to-stop philosophy. Same principle, 134 four-color make-readies and 273,000 impressions in 1 day. And you can read for yourself, 341 four-color make-readies and 346,000 in 32.75 hours. This is the machines that you see, and what I will start to show is the build-up process to utilize the capability of the equipment. So without understanding where you are, it is very difficult to go on a push-to-stop or smart print shop journey. So what I really try to emphasize to people is to, before you go onto that investment journey, to understand the data and the performance of where you are now. So again, this is a Heidelberg product called Analyze Point, which is within a press room manager module. And what you have here is color performance. So you can measure your real-time delta E from things such as impress control or image control. Here, blanket wash sequence, especially in your market, where packaging has so many variables of spot colors and requirements for customers. How do I optimize that sequence of blanket wash? I was a big believer of trying to improve by 1% each time we did something. So re-evaluating the process from receipt of inquiry to sellable product on machine. Now this is a commercial print shop that I'm showing here, but the capability of doing over 20,000 make-readies is an average of 2 minutes. That is the machine capability. On a standard 4-color make-ready, 4x4, you can make ready in 1 minute 51. And for clarification, what make ready means is last sellable sheet to first sellable sheet, not putting plates on a press and starting to print. I hope you've had a good demonstration today around the printing capability of the XL technology and all of the technology. The scary thing about these beasts, as I call them now, is that they highlight some of the weaknesses in the process before the machine. The machine capability, you can run at 18,000, should you have that specification, all day, every week, every month. And then we're lucky within that process as well, as run lengths become shorter and you have additional processes come in, you can decrease your waste percentage by following some of the reports that are available within the system. I always have a firm belief when I start talking about optimization or how to improve. When I ask customers, do you have a scheduling strategy? Of course we do. What is it? We deliver the job on time. That is a necessity. That is not a strategy. And what these wonderful pieces of equipment will highlight is you have the ability to repeat the performance from shift to shift, to shift to shift, to shift to shift. But the process starts away from the press. Press capability in 2018 is not the issue. I will stand here and I can be corrected. I have not yet seen an XL press fully optimized. I tried, I was a customer for a long time. So what it highlights is all the other functions before and after, how to maximize the capability within push to stop or smart print shop. And just to finalize again, 755 make readies and 1.94 million in a working week. This is not fiction, guys, this is real life. But I want to emphasize again, in navigated printing or autonomous printing, the processes in what we call pre-production are hugely important to utilize your capital investment. So, quick show of hands, who had the pleasure of coming to Drupa last year? Other than Heidelberg people, of course, John. And what Stefan Plentz and the organization started to talk about was something called OEE. Now, sorry to tell everybody what it is in case you know, but OEE, overall equipment efficiency or effectiveness, is something that the industry is starting to use as a benchmark. I will highlight that it is not relevant to every single type of organization, but it is a good umbrella to understand machine performance. So if you have an XL106, as an example, and you have 365 days in a year, and you run 24 hours a day, you can see that the machine's capability is 158 million, and that is 100%. However, let's get back to reality. So what OEE is achievable? So what you have along the bottom axis is the run length. The shorter your run length, the lower the OEE, because your machine will stop and start more. And up the right-hand side is the percentage. So as we say, 100% is impossible. Why? Well, the pneumatics and the startup phases and slowdown phases on the machine means the machine goes from 0 to 18 and 18 to 0. So we work out that that would be around 5% of the availability. So we take that away. Of course, we have to maintain the machines. So we allow another 7.5%. Working on a minimum make ready of 2 minutes, we then what we have and call an area of achievable performance. What is physically possible with the machinery today? And then this is the realistic performance border. Now, guys, I want to emphasize, if you're doing different applications, different foiling applications, different wash-up sequences, of course that has a huge impact. But all we're trying to show is a benchmark from the industry of what a guide performance ratio could look like. So this, as announced at Drupa, the worldwide average across packaging, labels, and commercial, depending on the region, is around 20 to 25%. And what the organization has stated as a guide to you, to the customers, is that we will double the OEE within the next 8 years now, not 10 years, 8 years. And my first comment on that was fantastic. Thank you, Heidelberg. But how am I going to process double the orders, double the plates? So the infrastructure and the process around the equipment becomes even more important. And just to show you there, we have different companies from around the world, packaging, publishing, commercial, online, just to show some of the capabilities of the machine's performance in today's market. So what we have is the workload or pressure in that given department. So in estimating, obviously within a packaging environment, we have the design process and the CAD environment. We then have job administration or planning, or die allocation or color management. Scheduling is generally a full-time function for several people in terms of communication to the customer and internally. Pre-press, always pressure on getting proofs out to the customer, gaining approvals and processing to the next stage. So that is an area that I call indirect. That's where we have bums on seats and people processing. And then we get into our wonderful equipment where you spend lots of money. As a guide, the average utilization of a CTP device is around 20%. So if you run 2 shifts and you can do 50 plates an hour, you're running in the region of maybe 100 plates on a good day. So there is capacity there. As I've just covered, the press capability or the utilization is circa 25%. And I've been very lucky, several people in the room where I've visited your premises, to your wonderful businesses, and I always see the same headache. Work in progress, flat sheets, post-press is always the bottleneck. And in today's environment with run lengths and transactions shortening, there is a huge pressure again on the job administration of raising invoices, logistics notes, so on and so forth. Now, this might be slightly different for you guys in your markets, but as an average worldwide, a packaging job from receipt of quotation to ship product is around 7 days. And from the calculations that we have done, it might be 3 days, might be 5. But the scary statistic for us and the opportunity is that around 45% of the life cycle of the job is spent before you make a plate. And so with run lengths coming down, we're seeing that pressure in pre-production increasing. Customers' expectations, shorter SKUs, it's putting a different type of pressure into the organization. So we have to completely change our mindset, or as we said at Drupa, it's a paradigm shift in the industry now. With the processes that I briefly discussed before, you have to push to start to initiate the sequences. And Heidelberg has now created something called push to stop. To repeat what I said at the start, push to stop is not just an operating system on a printing press. Push to stop is a whole operating philosophy of the business. How do you automate the sequences between touch points inside of your company? One of the frustrations I had as a customer was how could I get the data? I would have to do over 20 clicks to try and extract data to see our machine performances. So what we've done as an organization is focus on how do we make it easy or easier for customers to start their journey into a smart print shop. So we have a product coming through which is a Microsoft Azure cloud product called Power BI. And the whole idea of that is to make it very cost effective to extract any data that you have in your business, not just Heidelberg data. And secondary is then that you can understand where the improvement processes lie inside of the business. I can tell you hand on heart, guys, with some of the conversations that we have around development and what's happening in the industry with artificial intelligence and machine learning, the next 5 to 7 years is quite an incredible process of what will start to happen in the industry. We cannot get away from what automation will do to print, but how do we accept, develop, and then secure your relationships with your customers to keep your businesses successful? And without understanding the start point, that is a difficult journey to go on. So we really, really are passionate about helping you start to understand what you want to achieve. And just quickly, a few little slides around what's important, just in my humble opinion, is that any process optimization or productivity gain is great. But what is the benefit if you do not have additional sales coming into your business? There's no point increasing OEE by 2 if the sales pipeline is not there. So what I would always deploy people to do, and I know it's stating the obvious, but on any process optimization journey, on the same day you start that, is to really understand the data and the analytical behavior of your sales pipeline. So we start operational excellence here, and we start business innovation at the same time. But of course, if you're going to increase sales, I know you know this, there's no point if you do not make money from it. So what we're trying to do is not tell people how to run their business, of course not. What we're trying to do is give some guidance in terms of how you can get the data out to make the most of the technology that you've seen today. And what's also really interesting for me, being a printing engineering business, the first thing we look at, the machine. Wow, fantastic. But as I said, the technology today and the capability is so high that you have 4 different areas within an organization that become really important to understand. Don't worry. Estimating, for me, is about ensuring continuity or standardization from your product portfolio. Scheduling is trying to batch products together. You know, we have the capability of storing 30 jobs and the machine can take over. But of course, if you don't schedule the same sheet size, the same color sequence, it's a pointless exercise. So scheduling is a really important strategy around that. One of the huge frustrations I had on any journey I went through in terms of machine performance was material or substrate performance. I would love to stand here and say that every paper in the world runs at 18,000. It does not. So understanding how material performance on machine is behaving is a really important thing to utilize push to stop. Why? Because once you give the opportunity for a minder or an operator to slow the press down, they will do it. So it's trying to keep continuity to the machine. And when you're starting to talk about delta E or whatever color reference you want to use as a criteria, Ink pigmentation and blanket wear and tear is hugely important again in push to stop. If I'm constantly changing a sheet size, quality assist as a guidance on delta E will continually spike. And also it highlights some improvements that may be available inside of your consumable catalog to keep the press running at 18,000. So very simply as an overview, with the technology available, the printing process should be very similar to the automotive industry. Known output per hour, known cost, known quality. All optimized and nobody touches the process. This is not for everybody, guys. It's just a framework of what's available with today's technology. And software and automation and press performance will only increase and increase. Driving the smart print shop, we've created a criteria around this whole thing of digitization. Everywhere you go, smart this, smart that, digitization. And for us, automation and connectivity generates new opportunities. But also, what it allows you to do is focusing even more on your business and your customers. And of course, the challenge is, as we said, is that the print industry is very complex. Different customers, different products, different requirements. So how do we facilitate easing that pain? So based on the push to stop operating standard, yes, the Heidelberg framework, it is time to become a smart print shop. So we've defined 6 key areas to help. Key area 1, customer interaction. How do we help you engage with your customers to start some of those automation processes? So things like Connect Portal allow you to have bi-directional conversations with your customer. Reducing touch points. I know it's stating the obvious, but a touch point for me was somebody who was employed to process a job from one stage to the next. So how do we accelerate that process to make the most of the capability that you have in the equipment? Driving productivity and uptime, well, I think that's where the business does excel. But there's no point having this capability if we do not help and assist that journey. Reducing waste and inventory. With shorter run lengths, people's waste percentage generally increases. So how do we help and facilitate that being under control? It's all very well making ready in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. But how do you do that? Shift in, shift out, day in, day out. That's the challenge. Optimizing consistency and repeatability is a key criteria. And as I briefly said, as a customer, I always knew the frustration of how do I start? So business intelligence is a real thing. And I think the more and more we get into machine learning and the presses having more intelligence, this becomes an even more important criteria of how to utilize your investment.